everyone, it's Missy, and as you can see, we got new carpet in our living room, and we were trying to get the color off the couch here, which is the blue. So I started with the couch as my base in my living room for redecorating, and I really like this floral theme, especially the blue color in there, even though the couch is white. And so the carpet is like a sea salt color, which is like a blue. It's really cool because it's blue during the day and then it turns into like a greenish color like the ocean at night. So, and Biscuit really enjoys it. But of course I had to change out my curtains because this carpet was actually pink, and I don't know why. I don't like pink carpet. I'm actually shocked that it was. But anyway, that was there. The pink carpet was here when I got here. So the window here is a nice big picture window, but then I also have these windows in the porch because the carpet just goes right through, and it's like double windows, and there's 3 of them. And to buy valances, I need to buy 2 valances for the picture window and a valance for each window in there, so it'd be 8 valances. Well, I went to my dollar store and they had these nice big drapes. The drapes are, I brought the couch armrest cover, and I brought a sample of the carpet, and this blue really tied everything together. Like I said, it's bringing out more of the blue in the couch, and then I have it actually fits with the same color palette with the carpet. Not exact match, but very close, and these are going to be up on the wall. They're not going to be laying on the carpet, of course. But the thing is like I said, they're drapes. So they're supposed to hang lengthwise. So 2 drapes for the picture window, well, that's fine, but I have these nice lacy curtains that are sheers that I like to let the light through. I don't want them like drapes covering my windows because I really like that natural sunlight. So I actually am doing a thrifty kind of project, a valance in this color, but they would have been $8 a piece, and like I said, I would have needed 8 of them, so that would have cost $48. Whereas this long drape, 1 panel, costs $12. But it's big enough that I can actually, what I'm gonna do is cut it in half lengthwise, so I get 2 valances, 1 valance per the picture window, 1 valance for 2 windows over there. So I only need 2 of them. So 12 plus 12 is 24. I actually saved myself like 50% of buying valances. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this. And like I said, the drapes are lined already. They're already hemmed. So all I need to do is I'm going to cut down the middle. And the middle is where I'm going to fold them over and sew to create my my area that I'm going to have the curtain rods hold it. So it'll be like this. Like here they have the pocket where the curtain rod goes through. So I'm going to do this only lengthwise. And I'm not going to change up the hems on here or anything. I'm just going to leave it as is because you're not going to notice it too much when the valances are bunched up together. So it's like these ones in here. You see you have this seam edge here, and I know one's going to be bigger on one side and one's going to be smaller, but when they curve around on the curtain rods, you can't see them from the front anyway, and I'm not that picky. I'm more thrifty than picky, so I'll show you guys how to turn drapes into valances. So the first thing I did was lay my drape on the floor, and I'm just folding it over so that way I have the lengthwise seam that I'm going to cut along. And I'm using safety pins, and I'm just safety pinning the fold together. I could have used a cutting board and a cutter, but I just want to make a quick cut down the middle as evenly as possible. And I'm not too worried about it being perfectly straight because, like I said before, we are going to sew this end to form the pocket that holds the curtain. So I'm just putting a safety pin in about every foot or so, just going down the length like you can see. And the next thing I'll do is I'll take my scissors, and here's a closer up picture so you guys can see how I'm spacing out the pins. But the next thing I'll do is I'll take my scissors and I'll just cut along the fold, kind of like free cutting. So I just take the scissors and pull the material as taut as I can, and then I just start cutting away. Actually, I found out doing this, I cut pretty straight. I was actually kind of surprised at how well this worked. So this is just a quick, easy way just to get my drape into 2 pieces where I can sew my valances. And as you can see, it's actually going very fast when I'm doing it, very quickly. And I just use my hand just to hold the drape so that way I can pull it as taut as I can. So once I reach the end and I've cut completely through the drape, I just remove my safety pins. And you don't have to pin. I thought these curtains are lined, but the lining is like glued onto the fabric, so I don't have to worry about more than one piece of fabric with this like I originally thought. And now all we're going to do is take and fold over the edge by 1/4 of an inch, and we are going to sew or hem the edge so that way our fabric doesn't start fraying. So on my machine I have a quick foot attachment. I just removed my standard zigzag foot, and I am going to be using a special foot called a hemmer foot. And basically it just has a spiral on it, as you can see, where the fabric just goes through, it curls over, and then the needle will sew it together all in one step. So I'm just attaching that to my machine. And if you guys have the Brother SE400 sewing machine, embroidery machine, like I do, you will be able to see how I set up my machine and you can follow it exactly. But for those of you who don't have my machine, I'm going to give you the details on how I set up my needle for stitching. So on my screen, I have where I'm going to move to my center seam location, and I'm putting my automatic cutter and auto reverse on. My stitch length is 2.5 millimeters. So once you have your machine set up, if you're using the hemmer foot like I am, you just want to fold your material over to get it started, and you just place it under the foot. You put your foot down, then you put your needle into the down position. And once the needle is down, you lift the foot up, and then you have to maneuver the material so it gets into the spiral. This is actually the trickiest part of using this foot, is trying to get the material caught and rounded into the spiral. Mine's a 1/4 inch hemmer foot that I'm using, and 1/8 inch is even harder than that. So I just start sewing away, remembering to do my reverse stitch, and I just sew down the entire length of the curtain to hem the entire edge. For those of you without the hemmer foot, you can iron over your seam and then sew with a regular straight stitch, just like I'm doing. And as you can see, the spiral is really creating a tight hem. And here's a better picture to see how it's working. So the fabric is going through the spiral and turning over twice, and then my needle is sewing right through that hem. And that's how you get a nice, perfect, tight, straight hem. So next, I am going to be creating the pocket for the curtain, and I have my ruler measure set to 3 inches. And all I'm going to do is use some pins to hold it together for when I have to sew. So I just take the fabric, fold it over, and then I take my ruler and I try to line it up as best as possible so I get a 3 inch gap that I work with. And I know this sounds big for a pocket for the curtain, but I'm not too worried because the valance is actually measuring quite long in length. And I also decided, because it was so long, I'm actually going to create a little ruffle on top and a pocket below, just to give my curtain that extra dimension compared to those other blue ones I showed you in the other room that I made. So once I get everything lined up, I start at the edge, and I have it lined up to my 3 inches, and I'm just going to place a pin right on the edge. And then I continue my way down, pinning and folding, trying to keep the edge of the curtain as straight as possible, making sure everything lines up to 3 inches. And make sure that you space your pins, I want to say no more than a foot apart, so when you're sewing everything is flat. And just continue on down the length of the curtain till it's all pinned. I now set up my sewing machine so it's on the left side stitching, a 2.5 millimeter stitch length, and I just have my auto thread cut, auto reverse set on. And then I line up so that way the edge of my zigzag foot, or if you're using a straight foot, is lined up with the edge of that hem that we had just sewn. So we're going to be trying to stitch over the same stitches we had when we sewed the hem. And I'm going slow because I want to make sure that my foot is still on the edge of that hem the entire time. And I just keep sewing until I've sewn all the way down the length, and there's my pocket. So this is a nice big pocket, but I'm only actually going to keep it 2 inches. I'm going to sew 1 inch from the edge of the fold to create that ruffle, and I have markings on my sewing machine. I'm pointing out to the one that I'm going to be using to line up my fabric, but it's just 1 inch marking that's on there as my guide. So I still have my stitches and everything set to as prior when I was sewing the fold, and I'm just going to place my foot down and I'm just going to sew along, keeping the curtain as straight as possible and following that guideline, so I keep sewing 1 inch in from the fold. You don't have to do this like I said, but it does add a nice finishing touch. And once that's done, you can see that I have my 2 inch pocket and my 1 inch ruffle for the top. A very, very easy project, and you just repeat this with the remaining panels. So I turned my drapes that I had purchased at my local dollar store into what I thought were great, beautiful valances. Look at that. I think it looks perfect. I also did the ones for the porch. I actually created a 2 inch ruffle on those. As you can see, the one in the living room was under an air conditioning unit, so I needed to make the ruffle shorter. But they look great in my opinion, and they do the job, and all for 50% less than what the regular valances cost. So I hope you liked my video. Thanks for watching. Bye.